Remake. We'll probably try to keep this as spoiler free as possible. I know there's a lot of people that are going to be playing through this game, both new and older players. So I hope you will sit through and listen to us talk about this game. First thing first that I wanted to do is, man, what a remake. I want to say a big kudos to Bloober Team. They absolutely knocked this out of the park. Before we get into any sort of review, I have to say that front and center, a lot of people gave them a lot of crap going into this remake, and they not only made it through to the other side of all of that, they absolutely knocked it out of the park. And just big kudos to Bloober Team. Just big kudos. I could not have asked for a better remake. It's not perfect, and we'll talk about that here in just a second, but just wow. Absolutely wow. Second thing I wanted to talk about before we get in the review, and I don't usually do these like prefaces or reviews, but I think this one's important. For anybody that is new to Silent Hill that might be checking this out or thinking about checking this out, you're probably going to hear a lot of people complain about varied numbers of things. They're probably going to complain about like, oh, remakes are inherently bad, or you're going to hear people complain about, oh, you're probably not a real Silent Hill fan if you haven't played the OG. You're probably going to hear people, say that, you're basically you're not, a part of the Silent Hill community, stuff like that. All of that is crap, right? If you play this game, if you enjoy this game, I'm glad you enjoy this game. If you play this game and you don't enjoy the game, that's fine too. But don't let other people tell you and gatekeep you away from this game. If you're interested in Silent Hill, this is a good way to start. I am always, and I've mentioned this before on my channel, I am preservation first. As much as I would love for them to just give us some ports of the OG games, we don't have that as of yet. I preservation first. I think we should get ports of everything we could possibly get ports of these PlayStation 2 games. I think that's very important. But that aside, I think it's just fine if your first foray into Silent Hill is this remake. I don't think you need to play the OG series to be a Silent Hill fan. I don't think you need to sit there and be like, oh, I've got to know every little thing about the series. And no, if you play this game and you enjoy this game, then I will call you a Silent Hill fan. Like, that's where I'm at. There's a lot of gatekeeping when it comes to gaming and when it comes to specific series and stuff like that. I do not agree with that kind of gatekeeping. If this is your first Silent Hill game, I would love to hear from you in the comments, obviously, but don't let people gatekeep you from having fun with this game, because it is definitely worth your time. All that said, whenever we complete a game, I like to talk about the game from a mechanical standpoint and from a story standpoint, and then finally we do an overall. I don't really do like a 10 out of 10 or a 5-star rating kind of thing, so we'll do an overview kind of thing. Again, this is going to be spoiler free. I'm going to try to avoid talking, even when the story section, I'm going to try talking about any specific story beats. This will be you'll be able to kind of gauge based on this, and we do have a full gameplay series on the YouTube channel. If you want to watch a little bit of it, it is cut up in 30-minute segments. So if you just want to watch 30 minutes of the intro, or maybe a few hour or so in to see if it's something that's your jam, feel free to do so. Also, don't forget to subscribe. But let's get into it. So mechanically, this game is very much a modern survival horror game. Like, it makes no qualms in making sure that it still follows that resource collecting kind of combat or run kind of focus with the mechanics. There are multiple puzzles. Some puzzles have been moved and arranged from the original game. Some puzzles are just referenced. All sorts of stuff. There's a lot of changes to this from a mechanical standpoint, but that's because we're talking about a PS2 game being transitioned to 2024. For those of you that don't know, Silent Hill 2, which I know my green screen's taking it out, but Silent Hill 2 came out in 2001. So this game, the OG game, is 23 years old. And that is almost 2.5 decades of game development that's happened between that and this. So there are some pretty widespread mechanical changes. The combat feels very different. This combat is very... I don't like the word as much, but I will use it here. Visceral. It's very in your face. It's very like you can feel the weight of the strikes. You can, you know, you can feel the intensity of the combat in a lot of cases. The puzzles, we played it on standard, which is just the kind of like basic experience. Standard for the combat, standard for the puzzles. There are different levels for each of those. So if you want easy combat and hard puzzles, you can do that. If you want hard combat and easy puzzles, you can do that as well. There's a little bit of things you can adjust there. Again, I'm going to try not to spoil too much, but the bosses, some of the bosses have been drastically changed from the OG, and I think it makes some of them a lot more interesting. But it's definitely focused on this new shift in combat, which is why I'm mentioning it here. There's also exploration has changed a little bit. There are areas that you could go in that weren't previously accessible. There's a thing which is really fun to do where you get the ability to break windows, and there are supplies in cars, there are hidden areas, there's all sorts of stuff to find in here. But there's a lot of shift from the kind of traditional survival horror experience, and from a mechanical standpoint. And some of the puzzles, they got some difficulty to them. I could definitely see people kind of sitting down having to think them out. But I'm trying to think if there's any big mechanical changes outside of that. But no, it's a very much modern take on those old design sensibilities, and I think it's handled very, very well. And it's like just the way you move, the way you explore, the way you interact in combat, and all of that stuff. You could feel the intensity that they're going for. Now, with the story, again, I'm going to try to do a spoiler-free thing here. The story is relatively... I have to use that word there. Relatively the same as OG. There are some additions through the notes, through like a couple extra scenes, through a location change, through the voice acting. Like there are some things that are changed in a way to kind of change the feel of certain things. I do think from a story standpoint that will sit better with some than it will others. I personally really enjoyed the changes. I think it added a lot more gravity or a lot more facets to the characters we know and love from Silent Hill 2. Again, you do not need to play the OG Silent Hill 2 to enjoy the Silent Hill 2. This game will walk you through the story as if you haven't played it. There's some story beats that I was concerned about going into the remake, because this game has a lot of intense moments in it, and I was worried that we wouldn't get those intensity moments, like you get those moments of intensity nailed down. And having just beaten the game, I can honestly say my concerns were completely unfounded. Not only did they nail them down, I think they nailed some of them down better than what we played in OG. Again, that might be the hottest take you hear in this review, but I really, really like how they handled a lot of the story beats in this game, and how they handled a lot of the characters. the if you don't know, there are four basically supporting characters in this game. You have Maria, you have Angela, you have Eddie, and you have Laura. I won't go into too much detail again because spoiler-free review, but I think the voice actors did a very good job of portraying the emotions they need to portray. Again, they are different, and some lines have been changed, but I think you still get the gravity, and maybe even more so from some characters of the game as a whole. That being said, we did get the leave ending. If you're new to Silent Hill games tend to have, or not, we didn't get the leave ending. We got the in-water ending. I was going for the leave ending. We got the in-water ending. Sorry about that. If you're new to Silent Hill games tend to have multiple endings, and they're based on things that you do interact with, examine kind of in the game. Again, spoiler-free. And I won't tell you what that ending actually is, but that is the ending that we got. Yeah, so it made for an interesting finale to our game, but yeah, this story really does hold up, I feel, and I think the new additions to it are part of the reason for that. Just there were moments where in this game, both just exploring the world but also interacting with the characters, where I was just like, ooh, because I was I liked how their inflection and stuff like that kind of changed the moment a little bit. And I think there's a lot of cool things, deep things in the way that the voice actors and the director handled that. So it's definitely one of those that I think they handled it really, really well, from a story standpoint. Again, spoiler free. I really enjoyed the story. That's the long and the short of it. I liked the OG story. I had some issues with it. This one I think handles a lot of that better. And especially given the things that are mentioned, there is a trigger warning at the beginning of the game that I think is necessary to put in there. I do recommend reading that before you intend to buy or whatever. But because that story, those things that they are setting up for the trigger warning are in the game. They're not sugarcoating it. There are some pretty intense things in here, and Silent Hill is notorious for trying to pull those emotions out of people. And this game is no different. So, what is my overall thoughts? Here's where things are going to get a little interesting. The game itself, I think, is fantastic. However, I know, both from experience and from what I'm seeing online, there are some optimization issues. So this game does run in Unreal Engine 5, I think. It's Unreal Engine. However, there is some hitching. A lot of people are having issues with exploring the town or traversal-based stuff, causing major frame drops. Internal areas tend to not cause it as much, but I have seen someone crash just walking through a doorway. There are no real loading screens to the game, essentially. There are some cutscene transitions in and out of a cutscene, but there's no real loading. But there are some optimization issues. They did push a patch through today. I don't know if that was an optimization patch or if it was just a hey, we released the game, here's a little tweak here and there kind of thing. So I will say be very, very careful of that. If you have an older computer, maybe you might have issues. You might want to wait to see if they do an optimization patch before jumping in. But that aside, I basically didn't have any issues with this game. I'm going to give you my personal opinion on this. This may go against what people of the community believe. This may go against what people that play the game believe, but I believe Silent Hill 2 Remake has kind of set a new standard for remakes. And I'll tell you why. The main reason for me is this game was able to take something and not only give you that traditional experience in such a way that I feel like the OG players of Silent Hill 2 can go, okay, I enjoyed that, but also the new players. And for me, there's enough differences to where you could play both, get two different experiences, but still reach the same conclusion. And I also think this is a great launching off point for a lot of people in the series that have maybe never touched it or maybe just didn't have the ability to touch it. And just the way that it's handled, where it's like, okay, we know what our source material is, but we're going to make some alterations. We're going to do some changes with puzzles. We're going to do some changes with areas. We're going to do some changes with characters, but not so much that it feels like a different game. It feels like it honors the source material while also making it its own. And I know people are probably going to disagree with me on that, and that's fine. But I really do think I would love to see this kind of remake for a lot of remakes moving forward. I would love people to be like, okay, we know we're touching whatever game. Let's make sure we honor that while also bringing that forward. Because the thing is much like with movies, they're a product of their time, right? And since Silent Hill 2 came out in like 2001, there's been 23 years as of the time of this review, 23 years of development and societal changes and viewership changes and gaming changes. And there's been so much that's happened in those 23 years that I feel like this modernization was the best step forward for this game. Now, there will be a lot of traditionalists that will just not like this on principle. They're just against remakes. Again, I am always preservation first. I would really love it if Konami would just drop the Silent Hills on a platform so that people can play the originals and then come play, this remake. Until we get that, if you're interested in the series, I think Silent Hill 2 Remake is a great jumping off point. Again, I'm not going to get into spoilers, but there were moments of this game where I was ready to tear up. There was moments in games where I was legitimately speechless. I just wasn't talking because of how engrossed in the game I was. And I've played every Silent Hill from 1 all the way to Downpour, and now this one on release. Right, so I've played them all. I've interacted with them all. I've played most of them more than once. And I have to give kudos to Bloober Team, because this remake has opened my eyes to a completely new way of approaching remakes. Because you can do the one-to-one route, which I don't think there's anything wrong with, or you can do what we have here, which is it's a honor of the memory of what they're remaking, but a modernization of the game itself. And I think it's done so well. So well. Also, there's a really good game that I absolutely love that we played recently, Alan Wake 2. And there's a lot I don't know if it's intentional or unintentional, but you can see some similarities by how, not story-wise, but kind of like mechanically or design-wise, some of those kind of design philosophies kind of seem to come over in Silent Hill 2 Remake. And I think it's smart for a company to go, okay, what's been successful in this space and how can we approach that in our way? Again, there were a lot of people that gave Bloober Team a lot of crap going into this remake. And I'm glad that they were able to make it through. I'm glad they're getting high ratings, because I think it deserves every bit of praise. Now, again, there's some major optimization issues. I do not think this is a perfect game by any stretch. But if you're wondering if you should buy this, because I don't want this review to go too long, if you're wondering, should I get Silent Hill 2? I've never played Silent Hill. Yes. If you're like, I played the OG, is this one a good kind of Silent Hill to play even if I really enjoyed the OG? Yes. If you like horror games, if I like horror games, should I play this game? Yes. I will say, as a misnomer, obviously, again, optimization issues. Also, this has some very, very triggering stuff, and they go in hard on that triggering stuff, especially in this remake. So I will forewarn you, I would check out the trigger warning. I would check out a little bit of the gameplay. Try not to spoil too much of the story for yourself. But I do wholeheartedly recommend this game. My only caveat is maybe wait a little bit to see if they get some optimization patches in there. And once they do, if they can get it running just cleanly, I think this will be one of the best horror experiences for the next few years. Like, I honestly believe that the work that went into this might have just changed how we view remakes. And to me, that's really awesome. And that's my recommendation. If you like horror games, play Silent Hill 2 Remake. If you like Silent Hill, play Silent Hill 2 Remake. And if you like Silent Hill 2, play Silent Hill 2 Remake. Like, I cannot stress enough how absolutely amazing this game turned out. And I think it is worth every bit of your time. So that's my review. Again, I know there's going to be traditionalists and other people who completely disagree with me. That's fine. If you want to have, a discussion about it, that's great. We do have a Twitch channel. You can come in, you can discuss your thoughts on it, the things you liked, the things you didn't like. We're perfectly open to those discussions. Feel free to leave us a like, a comment, and all of that stuff as well. But please do, if you have even just a passing interest in this game, please do give it a shot. I think it is worth your time. I think there's a lot to discover. I think there's a lot to offer, and I think you'll have a really good time with it. But that's it for me. If you want to join us here in chat, I am MaskofGames basically everywhere. Don't forget, again, to leave us a comment, a like, a subscribe. We are working our way to 100 subscribers, so thank you so much for everybody over there on YouTube that's putting in the work. Feel free to share out our videos as well. Share out this video. I know a lot of people are going to be like, hey, I want to hear a spoiler for your review. You got one right here. We probably will be talking about the story in the future and stuff like that. I might do another video just on the story, a spoilerific version. But I wanted to do a spoiler-free review because I think this game needs to be experienced, and it needs to be experienced as unknowingly as possible, basically just going in knowing as little as possible, because there are scenes that I think sit so much better. Bye-bye.